Welcome, Aubrey. Now, Aubrey de Grey is coming to Melbourne on the 5th and 6th, and also surrounding times as well in May this year, 2012, for Humanity Plus conference. It's second in Australia, second in Melbourne. So, Aubrey, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like to be speaking about?
Thanks very much. My name's Aubrey de Grey. I'm the Chief Science Officer of a foundation, a charity based in California named Sense Foundation. What we do is we're interested in developing therapies against aging. And specifically, we focus on the development of regenerative medicine against aging, which means genuinely turning back the clock, taking people who are already middle-aged or older and making them biologically younger again, as opposed to just slowing down the clock, so to speak. So when I come to Melbourne to your conference, I shall, of course, be talking about all of that work.
Excellent. So, the SENS Foundation. Now, what does SENS stand for?
SENS stands for Strategies for Engineered Negligible Senescence, which is, of course, rather a mouthful. I can explain how that name came about. It basically has historical connections with terminology that's used by gerontologists, people who study the biology of aging. But really, you don't need to know what it means. It's the approach of using regenerative medicine against aging.
Excellent. So, you've mentioned previously in conversation some of the new technologies which seem quite exciting. One of them was Alzheimer's research. How's that going? And what are some other interesting avenues of research that have just come about?
Well, in Alzheimer's disease, there are quite a lot of things that go wrong in the brain. And the approach of regenerative medicine against aging correspondingly results in doing several different things in the brain so as to combat Alzheimer's disease. The one that's going the best at the moment, that's furthest towards clinical application, is removal of the molecules, the proteins that accumulate in the spaces between our brain cells. This material is called amyloid, and it makes things called senile plaques, which are one of the diagnostic things in Alzheimer's disease. And we want to see those things got rid of by using the immune system against them, essentially by getting cells in the brain more than a decade ago now, but it moved to clinical trials pretty quickly, and it's actually now already at phase three of clinical trials, which is the last stage before regulatory approval. So it's pretty close. There's another type of molecular garbage, so to speak, that accumulates in Alzheimer's disease, and that type accumulates inside our brain cells, inside neurons. It's called tangles, and in order to get rid of that, we have to do something rather different, which involves rejuvenating the garbage disposal machinery that cells have inside them. The garbage disposal machinery that we need to address in particular is called the lysosome, and we're doing some early stage proof of concept work on that in our foundation. Finally, in Alzheimer's disease, there's also simple cell death, cells dying and not being automatically replaced, and various people are looking at stem cell therapies to improve the ability to do that, to replace the cells that the body is not replacing on its own. So Alzheimer's disease is very complicated, and fixing it will also be very complicated, but we're getting there.
I'm looking forward to seeing some people checking themselves out of the hospital. So, I'd be interested what your view is. What sorts of diseases related to old age are likely to be tackled in the next 10 years? What you see hope for in the next 10?
Well, 10 years is actually quite an ambitious time frame, and I think it's quite likely that within 10 years there isn't going to be all that much progress. It remains to be seen, but I think that, if anything, the progress against the diseases of old age may actually slow down. high-tech regenerative approaches that Sense Foundation and others are working on.
Okay. So, what about, okay, well, maybe a less ambitious time frame like 25.
Okay, so within 25 years, I think we've got at least a 50-50 chance of developing all of the regenerative technologies that have been grouped under the Sense banner over the past decade. I think that all of the types of molecular damage and cellular damage that we see accumulating throughout life in aging and that eventually contribute to age-related ill health of all kinds are likely to be amenable to genuine reversal within 25 years. So when we can do that, we will be able to maintain the structure of all of our tissues in the same state that
Okay. All right. So you cut out a little bit towards the end. I think maybe someone else is using internet. I told them not to. Well, let's see. Right. Well, that's it. Can you still hear me?